Hello and welcome to the Back9 Report, where every week Fred Altvater and I check in on the world of golf to bring you the latest news, insights, analysis, interviews, recaps, previews. Hey, we cover anything and everything golf. In other words, if it happened golf, we have it for you. But this edition that we're going to do is the kickstart to the top stories in golf for 2021. And we do this every year, but this year is going to be different. We're going to start doing it one by one. So you're going to see, this is our first video, then we're going to count down the top 10 after this. And of course, every year we have to bring the reinforcements to be with us. And that is the European golf guru, Kieran Clark. And I'm going to bring him in first. Kieran, hi, how are you today?
Hi, Carlos. I'm very well and looking forward to this end of year bonanza, a full series, a full season of shows throughout the remainder of the year. And of course, the big question will be on all of our minds is, what is number one story of 2021?
What could possibly
no spoilers
be?
here. No spoilers here. You'll have to watch and find out. But I'm looking forward to diving into all these great stories from what's been another extraordinary year in golf.
Our lips are sealed. We're not going to say anything until we get to number one, which is very surprising. You will see. I'm sure everybody will be surprised about it. But anyway, Fred, hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm great, guys. Always happy to have Kieran Clark join us, the European golf guru. And Kieran, we hope you have a great holiday over there in Scotland. And I know it's early morning. It's early morning over there, and we're always glad to have you on to kick us off. So, guys, I get the honors here. So, Carlos, you want me to talk a little bit about the post-pandemic golf's resurgence, right?
Right. Let's start with, this is the show, the edition for the honorable mentions. This is going to be two stories that we thought about them, but didn't quite made to the top 10. So we're going to have two stories. And Fred, please tell us, it seems like even after during the pandemic, we talked about this, there was like a golf resurgence, but even after it hasn't gone down. So how is it going this year?
Well, as you mentioned, when the COVID pandemic hit in 2020 in March, everything kind of shut down in March. But then by mid-April, golf courses in the United States were allowed to open back up. County public health systems, state public health associations allowed golf courses to open back up with some limitations. I know in Europe it was different. A lot of courses remained closed in Scotland and Ireland especially. But here in the United States, things opened back up and golf just took off. We never saw anything like it in 2020. July, August, and September set unbelievable records with $300 million worth of equipment sales and of all kinds of things. Well, in 2021, that trend has continued throughout the year. And also, people began traveling again this year, earlier in the year. And so golf resorts began filling back up. Their tee sheets were full. Every bed was filled up. I personally talked to a lot of resort owners and managers over the last year, and they were running at 85 and 90% of capacity all year long. You had a backlog of people that couldn't travel during the pandemic that had booked trips. Well, they wanted to get out and fill those credits, they wanted to fill those up. And then you had people that had been cooped up, they just wanted to travel. So you had two groups of people that were trying to travel at once, and they were just filling everything up. And that has kind of continued through the year. Another concern is that golfers are buying up every available club, glove, and ball, with suppliers having a difficult time keeping shelves fully stocked, especially with the glut of trying to get stuff moved around and supply issues all over. China coming to the United States, the trucking boxes locked up and loaded up on the docks, sitting there full, but they can't move them fast enough. So it's been quite a year in golf again, not only from the people that want to play, but people that want to buy stuff, and we just can't, the suppliers can't physically get it to them fast enough. One small telltale sign, though, that we may be reaching the top of this bubble. The National Golf Foundation reported rounds played in the United States decreased 8% in September. With high school, college, and professional football ramping back up this fall, plus parents attending their children's school activities, a slight decrease in golf had to be expected. The question is, guys, can golf sustain the number of golfers that came back to the sport? Can they keep them interested? Once these COVID issues and worries are completely over, will we keep seeing these kind of numbers out in golf, buying equipment, buying clothing, playing golf, being involved, getting their kids involved, families involved, women involved? I think it's going to be really hard to sustain these numbers, and I think we'll start to see them slide as we go through 2022.
Well, the good news is that it went up. Now it's up to golf and the golf industry to maintain it there. Yeah, I don't think we'll be over the COVID thing for a short time because we keep seeing any variants coming up. I think this is just a new reality that we're going to be living with. But anyway, it's great to see that golf is really priming again. And again, it's going to be up to the golf industry. So Kieran, anything you want to say with that? And also your piece of news is the second piece of news that we're going to talk about, the second honorable mention, which we don't have a European tour anymore. It's the DP World Tour. So how about that?
Yeah, indeed it is, Carlos. And it is certainly a new era for golf. And it was a bit of a bombshell when it happened. Ahead of the DP World Tour Championship just last month, Keith Pelley and the European Tour, or what was formerly the European Tour, announced a brand new partnership, a new era that will see the tour rebranded as the DP World Tour. And Fred mentioned the rise in golfers in the US, which has been replicated in Europe, incidentally, over the past year and a half or so. We've seen a massive number of golfers here, which is obviously very encouraging. The question will be, how can that be retained going forward? Same issue here as there is across the Atlantic. But a rising number of golfers, but also on the DP World Tour, a rise in prize money. So the new DP World Tour, which is essentially the European Tour, just amped up a little bit more. We'll see prize money next year break $200 million for the first time. Each event that's sanctioned by the DP World Tour will have a minimum of $2 million prize fund, which is a significant increase in what you've been seeing in recent years in the European Tour. So, and also a really global tour as well, even more so than before. The tour will go to Japan for the first time. Obviously, we'll have amped up Rolex Series events. We'll see the events that are co-sanctioned now with the PGA Tour as part of that partnership, including the Scottish Open at the Renaissance Club, which should be a real showpiece event ahead of the following week's Open Championship, 150th Open Championship at St Andrews. So, the European Tour has come through the pandemic in some respects remarkably well, given the challenges that they faced, especially last year, in trying to put together a schedule and trying to put together some events to these players. Very traumatic time for Keith Pelley and his staff. But coming out of this, they've come out strongly. They have lost a degree of identity, has to be said, but for the players, there's more playing opportunities and more money, and that can only be a good thing for them. But what's fascinating about this, so Carlos, is the battle lines that are being drawn in golf. And this is clearly a reaction, not just to the pandemic and the impact of that, but clearly a reaction to the rise of the Saudi-backed Asian Tour, the Live Golf Investments, the Super Golf League, the apparent Premier Golf League, which is an entirely different thing altogether. All this rumbling around the background, and this is a reaction to that, giving players, the established players, a reason to stay loyal to their tours. And it's fascinating who's backing all this. And it really shows that essentially now, guys, golf is a tool in a contest between nation states. So this basically is the UAE, United Arab Emirates, the DP World, essentially now own the European Tour. And of course you have Saudi Arabia over with Live Golf Investments in the Asian Tour now. So that's two nations controlling two different tours. And it's replicated elsewhere in sport too. In European football, soccer in commas there, you have Manchester City in the Premier League in England, essentially owned by the UAE as well. Then you have Paris Saint-Germain in France, who are owned by the Qatar Investment Authority. And more recently, Newcastle United are owned by the Saudi Public Investment Fund, which is very controversial. So we're seeing these similar lines now drawn in golf, where these nation states are trying to get influence, trying to diversify their economy, diversify and improve their public image, and they're using golf and sport as a whole as that vehicle. We've seen it in other sports, and we're now seeing it in golf in an even greater fashion, and that will be the big story from next year and I suspect beyond. It may be ugly, but that's the reality. So the DP World Tour, it's a new era for golf in Europe and indeed around the rest of the world. Some great events on the schedule, great prize money for these players. But again, it's just fascinating to see how this will develop, because golf is now, as I say, this tool in this contest between essentially countries, and that's a new era. Whether it's bad or good or exciting or daunting, it's you can debate about it all night. But it's certainly intriguing, and that's going to be the reality for the game for a long time to come.
It's funny because when we see in consumer marketing, right, when there's competition, what it does is bring the prices down. When it's competition in golf, it just brings the prices up. So if anybody's winning right now, it's definitely the player. So anyway, and I wish everybody could see Kieran Clark with a coffee. That's why he is in the morning. He's starting.
It's probably
keeping me going.
It's probably a good single malt, probably.
No, it is coffee. It's definitely coffee. I'm sure it is. I hope it is.
Yeah.
Not, it's
it's coffee.
Videos.
Yeah, it's coffee. It's coffee. Yeah. Anyway, those are our two honorable mentions. We have more for you. So this is the first one. For the next one, the top 10, the number 10. You got to watch tomorrow, because that's going to be every day we're going to be publishing them. So anyway, Fred, any final words before we close this one?
No, the only thing, guys, we covered this story all year. We talked about it on and off. Seemed like almost every month there was something that came up that we had to talk about. The question for me and what we're going to be watching is that, can the millions of dollars that a DP has pumped into the European Tour, along with the 90 million that the PGA Tour has invested in the European Tour, actually save the European Tour long-term and protect it from a takeover by either the Greg Norman-led group or the PGL or whatever? It's just going to be a continuing story for 2022. And it's, it missed our top 10, but it was definitely one of the biggest stories of the year.
Yeah, Kieran, I think next year we'll have it on the top 10. Definitely.
Definitely 100%
with the DP World Tour. Any final words?
No, I think Fred's correct there. I mean, I think this is we're seeing the beginning of what's going to be an ongoing story, and we'll come back to it. No spoilers here, but in this top 10 we'll cover it as well, where this new era for the game, it's accelerating very quickly. It's going to be controversial. It's going to be very contentious. It could even get quite ugly at times. But this is the start of a new era for the game, whether you like it or not. I'm definitely in the not very pleased about it bracket, has to be said, but I worry about where it's going to go. But it's a reality, and we have to kind of accept it and see what happens.
All right, with that, we close up the honorable mentions on the top stories of golf for 2021. Remember to watch tomorrow, the number 10. We're not going to say it right here if you want to watch it. Our countdown is going to be every single day until Christmas. So thank you for joining us. Number 10 is coming up tomorrow. Thank you.